Good morning. I'd like to welcome everybody to our September 21st, 2021 council meeting.
Iris De Carvalho.
Here.
Dave Light.
Here.
Soldner.
Here.
Bagwell.
Here.
Garza.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our prayer will be given to us from Dave Dubovich from Park Place Church. Dave?
You pronounced it right.
I practiced.
Let's pray. Holy One, known by many names and beyond all names, Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Spirit of community, Spirit of justice. We ask your blessings, O God, on those who have been called to lead this community in which we live and work and play. Help them and each of us, O God, as leaders to not ask, first, how do we fix this? But what do we need to learn? How might we need to change? And to whom do we need to listen? Remind them and us that no matter where we live, everyone is our neighbor. And that throughout the ages, prophets have called the leaders of the people to respect and protect the least of those among us, our children, the elderly, the poor, those who are hungry, those who have no homes, those who are ill in body, mind, or spirit, the strangers in our midst, those who live on the margins, those who are alone, those who are forgotten. Grant them and us the wisdom and courage to know and do what is right and good and true. May they and we speak out when it is time to speak out and listen. And may they and we always be guided by the spirit of community, by the spirit of justice, and by the spirit of love. This we pray in the name of all that we hold sacred and holy, all that we hold good and right and true. Amen.
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 Thank you, Dave.
Item 4, oral communications from the audience.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
Mr. Mayor.
Good morning.
My name is Kip Hildebrand. I live at 3103 Princeton Drive here in Hutchinson. I come before the Council this morning a little bit frustrated with the process. A little background, I own the property located at 2200 East 4th in Hutchinson. I've owned this property for probably 5, 6, 7 years, and over the course of the last several years I've been trying to improve this property. About a year ago I came into the City Planning Department with a idea to build a RV storage covered parking for fifth wheels, campers, boats, things of that nature. Came into the Planning Department to check on the zoning. And at the time, I was told that my property was zoned for that use. And so I went ahead and went forward with my plans, contacted Garber Surveying. They came out, did a land survey, and I had them prepare for me a site plan. And I also contracted with QSI Buildings in Haven to get me a set of engineered drawings for a building. And took a little while to get all that going, but we finally got it done. We were on track to build this building in August. They wanted to deliver it first part of August, have the building put up by the end of August. I went down to the planning department to pull a building permit and was told that I would need to file the paperwork, the permit online. Now, I don't do this on a daily basis, but I did take the sheet of paper that they gave me and went home and tried to navigate that website. And unless you are in that business, there are about 20 different things that you can do on that site, and I had no idea what I was doing. So I came back I called, and I have to say Charlene with the planning department is a saint. She tried to help me in every which way. But she directed me to talk to a man by the name of Ryan Hootlock, I think is his name, the city planner. I scheduled a meeting with him. The first time that I had a meeting with him, they called me 20 minutes before my meeting was to take place to tell me that he had something else come up and was not going to be able to make that meeting. So we rescheduled it for the next meeting, or the next week, and I came in, brought my site plan, my drawings from the engineer for the building, and he basically told me that in no uncertain terms that I would not be issued a building permit, not because I had an engineered drawing and my building was well within the guidelines of what the zoning is for that property, but because, number one, the fence that I've spent $20,000 with Railco Fence to put up a fence around this property. And he told me that my fence isn't good enough, that it needs to be a solid fence across 4th Street. And I said, okay, well, that's not a problem. I'll get a hold of Railco and we'll see about putting the plastic slats in like you see all down 4th Street. And he said, no, that's not good enough. It has to be a solid fence. And I said, okay, well, that's going to be a problem. I could probably work through it. Then the other issue was he told me that my building would have to have a concrete or asphalt paved floor. Now, I've got plans I can present to the council this morning that shows this building. It's a 3-sided building with the south elevation open for moving trailers and campers in. And it's very troubling that they're trying to require me to put concrete in. I did ask about a variance for that, and he, in no uncertain terms, told me, he said, well, you can file for a variance, but you are very unlikely to get it. He was very, very, I'm not even sure what the word is, just very, the word escapes my mind. So I'm here before the council this morning to find what direction I need to take to get this project done. We're talking about East 4th Street. There's not been any new construction, any improvements along 4th Street in years. What I'm proposing is a brand new building that will be an asset to the community. It's a need. The properties along 4th Street to the east of me, and when I asked him about the fence and the shielding of the fence, he told me, he says, well, the people that live down there, they're entitled to the same aesthetics as, people that live up on the north end of town. And I have to agree with him on that to some point, but have you guys been down 4th Street? I've taken pictures,
Just the other day, as a matter of fact.
and I'll present them to the council of, if I can find them here. Also, there's a few pictures of my my property. I don't know if the council wants to look at those or not, but the Gillies Metal has been there for years. They have scrap metal piled all over the place. It's clear out onto almost 4th Street. And then where the Foreign Car Center used to be, I don't know what they're doing there now, but they've got piles and piles and piles of old mattresses and trash. And if you'll look at the pictures, they're over the sidewalk. So, what I'm proposing is a nice looking building that will have nothing other than campers, which my camper is actually in that picture, so you can kind of see, what would be parked there. They're concerned about that when they let these monstrosities of eyesores exist. And I understand that they've been there a long time, or at least Gillies Metal has been there a long time. The other business has just popped up within the last year. And I'm beside myself because I drive out 4th Street every day on my way to work, and I see this, and I'm frustrated that I have to come before you guys this morning and plead my case. Back to the flooring, the concrete that the city planning department is saying that I have to have in order to build my building. I had 10 truckloads of asphalt dropped in there, millings, earlier this summer. And if you'll look at where the camper is parked in those pictures, my trailer is parked on those millings. And those millings are as hard as a rock. I don't understand what the difference is between asphalt millings and paved asphalt. If we're going for dust control, this eliminates dust. He also, Mr. Hootlock, or however you pronounce his name. Hevelock, I don't want to mispronounce his name. Also told me that slurry seal will not be acceptable as well. But yet, on my residential street on Princeton Drive, where there is a lot more traffic than what will ever take place when people are pulling in and pulling their trailers out of my property, that's okay to put a slurry seal on my street, but yet on my property, at my expense, that's not acceptable. I told Mr. Planner that, I served on the Planning Commission years ago, and the planning department at the time always had a reputation for being very hard to work with. And I always disagreed with that. I always felt like the Planning Commission, at least, had common sense. But now that I'm on the other side of the fence, I understand where people were coming from. Because what seems like something that should be so simple and so easy to take place, the planning department has made it so difficult. And I've already paid for this building. And this building is going to go up somewhere. And if I cannot build it in the city of Hutchinson, this is an open invitation for any community in the county of Reno that would like to have a building put up. Contact me, because I will put it up. It will go up somewhere. It's already paid for. I've worked with First National Bank, Garber Surveying, Relco Fence. I've spent all this money with all these local businesses to make this happen. And I ran into a stumbling block with the city of Hutchinson. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much.
If you would like to see the building plans or the site plan.
So can we get Ryan in here, or no?
That would be inadvisable. Let me
Like,
explain
what's
how the
the
process.
actual ordinance that's
Right,
preventing it? Because
right.
I know that some places over there off these floors have the slats. I know it's like, is it because it's a,
Let me
what
help the
zoning
council
is it?
understand the process and what's been adopted by the governing body for a long time. You've got development standards that are adopted by the governing body in a process for application. Property owners don't always wait until the review is completed before they order a building kit. It's my understanding that that is what happened in this particular case. The property owner proceeded with ordering of the building before that approval process was even considered. Maybe some consults occurred. I'm not saying that didn't happen. The issue of a variance also is prescribed by statute 12-759. It's an area where this body doesn't have purview or scope of authority. Actually, the district court does. So we're kind of back in that discussion, almost like municipal court. If this governing body is compelled to change the development standards, and the applicant may have some good cause to do that, that is something that you could remand back to the Planning Commission with recommendations for consideration. That would be procedurally correct and the way to handle it. I don't argue that we have some derelict properties in the city. Certainly those aren't hard to identify. I could go out with a camera and probably bring you back a few in a matter of minutes. So,
My biggest thing is which we had this issue with the parking lots before having to be asphalt, and we worked with one of the, was it the Dairy King, so that they wouldn't have to have that asphalt parking. Is there anything within the same thing that we did with Dairy King? Because I think the flooring that he shows in those pictures should be comparable to kind of what happened with the Dairy King, and what process happened with the Dairy King that we could maybe apply to this so that he doesn't have to, because I think the main hookup is just the asphalt or concrete, because I think the millings is pretty close. So what process happened with Dairy King to make that go forward, and can we apply that to this situation? That's my question.
I would have to review that further, but there is a process for that type of material for it to be used with overflow parking, but only, I believe, in certain zoning districts. Now, that's not a discretionary matter so much for staff or even the governing body. It's more a planning commission review and then with recommendation back to this body. So there's definitely a process for
There
this.
is a process that we
Oh,
could
yeah.
go through, because I would strongly encourage that the current council recommend approval of an alternative flooring to this building and slats on the fence.
You would
And
need to compel the governing body to make recommendations
Yeah.
to the planning commission.
Yes, that's what I'm
Or
saying.
if you were not compelled to do that to make an immediate change, you would have to have
Uh-huh.
supermajority and override the planning commission. So procedurally, this is improper right now. Procedurally,
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. What do we do procedurally to make it proper? So we would,
It
as
goes back
a
to the
committee,
planning
go to the,
commission.
we would recommend to the commission. The commission would then make a ruling, come back to us, and then we could either override it with a supermajority, or they could come back with us with the recommendation for approval.
You got
Is
it.
that correct? Okay.
you got it.
I'm asking the council to recommend it back to the commission.
As far as I can tell, it hasn't even been to the planning commission.
Nope.
Jackson, you're sitting back there. Have you heard this? You can just shake your head. Okay, I mean, I think we got to go back and start it through the process. Kip, exactly where are you? Looking at these pictures, I'm trying to figure out, are you across the street from the semi parking lot where the semis are parked?
No, ma'am. I am at 2200 East 4th. Years
Uh-huh.
ago, it was the Dillon's Day Old Bakery. It's been a car lot. It was a vacant property when I purchased it. We are directly west of the Big Chief Mobile Home Park, Flamingo Flats Mobile
Okay,
Home
you're
Park.
further, you're further
And,
back down Fourth than I
To the
realized.
west of us is the former Nashville South Country Western Bar from back in the 70s.
Okay, okay. Thank
Mr.
you.
Hildebrand, thanks for coming today and letting us know your experience. And we do want your investment in Hutchinson, so I appreciate you coming to us and affording us just a little bit of patience while we work through this. I know it's been a frustrating experience.
It has
Um,
been very
and
frustrating.
I apologize for that, and I know efforts have been made to streamline that process, and it's not very intuitive to people who don't do it day in and day out, so I apologize for that. I certainly wouldn't know how to do any kind of development here without a lot of help from the staff. Would you be willing to work with us as we take this to the Planning Commission and get approval for some variances?
Yes.
Okay,
And I approached the planning department, like I said, a year ago to try to find out what I needed to do. And when I found out that the use that I wanted to use the property for was allowed, I proceeded forward. And from my experience on the planning commission, I knew that they would want a site plan, and I knew they would want engineered drawings. And to be honest, when I came down to City Hall to get my building permit, I thought that, you know, I had everything that they would request and wanted. I had no idea. I did not expect this roadblock at all. And it just, the concrete floor thing just blew my mind, because this is an open-faced building. It's not enclosed. you go to any other community, and you know, I travel all over the state of Kansas for Dillon stores, and you know, you never really notice something until it's in your mind. And so I see all these different properties across the state, and they're all rock, you know, chat or whatever, you know, very dusty and very dirty. And you know, like I said, I spent 10 truckloads of asphalt millings already, and I'm not done, but I stopped the process. I was going to have another 10 truckloads brought in and leveled out to further the floor, but after my dealings with the planning department, I put that on hold to see where I needed to be.
Well, I do want to mention, like, as the city manager alluded to, that those standards are set by us. So, you know, it's helpful to hear that they might be unreasonable in some situations, as, you know, maybe on that East 4th corridor where it doesn't really, the aesthetics don't support maybe other corridors. They're not maybe in alignment with other corridors. So I want to take a little of the pressure off the planning department, because they are really just carrying out the standards that we set forth. But if those standards need review, we'll certainly take that into consideration, especially after hearing what you've said. And prior to that, I think that the Planning Commission maybe does have authority to make some sort of variance available. I'm hoping. I'm not sure if procedurally that can happen without changing those standards, but
Well, the Board of Zoning Appeals can do that. So
well, I hope we
have to go
would
back
be
through
able
that.
to facilitate that process as quickly as possible. I know you're ready to go, but I don't want you to have all that sunk cost lost by moving to another community within the county. If you can just have a little faith that we're willing to work with you, and I apologize for any trouble you've had.
And you know, we've already passed our deadline for putting it up off of our original deadline, and I'm willing to be patient, and I'm willing to work through this process. I just you know, I ask for the council's support, and I appreciate any help that you can give me to make this happen. I mean, I grew up in Hutchinson. This is my hometown, and I really do kind of like it here. And I want to see things move forward and progress.
Is there any staff we can direct him to get his issue onto the board?
Onto the Planning Commission agenda.
Planning department handles that, always has.
Okay.
Okay, me and you've talked. I went out there. I went out there and talked to him. I looked at like I do my walking. Me and him talked. I went out there and looked at the neighborhood, and it frustrates me. This guy's, what he wants to do is just parking. He just wants to park his RV in his shed. And I'm not an engineer. I don't know why we do this. It's not a street you're doing. It's a parking place where you park your RV. Am I right?
Correct.
So me and him talked, and he was with me pretty mad, and I see why you were mad. So let's go ahead have just like I told you out there, and we talked, and I walked the neighborhood and looked around. Just be patient. I don't want you to leave. You spent a lot of money in this town, and I appreciate you spending this money in this town. You did right by calling your local council member, which I am your council member on that side. And we walked, and I went out and met you, and we talked. And I encouraged you to come here and talk to my other council members, and you did. You did the right thing. So let's get this done. Let's get this taken care of. And I appreciate the money you spent in Hutchinson, Kansas. We can try to get this worked out. If it's whatever we need to do, we'll try to get it worked out. But like Jade said, it's the planning committee is going by the recommendations that we did. So we have to get that part changed. And you did it right. You contacted your council member. We talked. And I encourage you to come here, and I appreciate you doing what you're doing. So you just didn't only talk to me, now you talk to the rest of us, correct?
Correct.
All right, so let's get this worked out. And see, like I said, I've seen how much money you put into that situation. Everything can be worked out. So whatever it takes, we'll see what we can do for you. Okay?
I appreciate that.
All right.
Jeff, can you advise when the next Planning Commission meeting is?
I do not have that in front of me. I know staff in the
But
planning department.
it's
will have
within a
that.
month? It's in a week?
It's not going to get on the agenda that quickly. You're going to have to go through the process, and you know that process, Kip. I mean, you've been there
Is there that
because
many
we were on
items?
planning commission together.
Correct.
So, you know, and I know this parking issue. Parking
surface has come up multiple times. So it's probably something we need to look at the ordinance or the plan, the zoning, and look at that again to make some changes. So,
I encourage you to stay in touch with us throughout the process and just make us aware of any hiccups. I have full faith in our staff, but again, they're working off rules we set that might make it difficult to do what you want. So just stay in touch.
Sorry. What's the average time to get something? I'm just interested as far as what's the average time to get something on an agenda like that?
Getting it on the agenda is not really the relevant issue. The issue is the timing and the hearing publication requirement that
Okay.
has to toll.
All right.
So, and we don't control necessarily when those publications occur. We narrow it down pretty well, but that is really what adds time to the clock, the statutory requirements.
so.
Those aren't city requirements, those are actually
Yeah, I
state
know that. I was just, so
requirements.
it's once a month, so,
Sometimes we don't have any, depending on the docket or the agenda. But if a case
I would
comes along.
encourage them to meet next month.
Well, if they get applications, they will. And
Yeah.
that's really what sets the direction of whether or not they hold a meeting or not, is whether they get valid applications.
I just would be upset. I mean, they could
Or our
come in
citizens,
next month. Because with situations like this, who wants to wait 2 months? And if there's a application, I would hope that they would meet.
I haven't worked for a state in Kansas that doesn't have a process that's almost identical to this. This isn't really something that's
Well,
foreign.
we don't have to be comparable or identical. We're Hutchinson, Kansas, and I would want us to have things maybe a little bit better than other cities, so that we could maybe bring people here.
Happy
So
to-
I would, once again, say that I would hope, even if there's just one person that would need some kind of recommendation or approval through that council, that they meet. I mean, it is only once a month. And I would encourage that, because I wouldn't want somebody to wait 3, 4, 5 months, because that's all I'm going to say about that. We don't need to be comparable to other cities. We need to be Hutchinson, and we need to be one of the best. So that's what I'm going to say there. I would hope that we would maybe do things and become more friendly and more accessible. And if that means holding a meeting for one application so that we can get some growth in our town, I would encourage the people in those areas to do so.
any other questions?
No, I will make my way to the planning department and take the next step.
I appreciate you coming up
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you.
If more of our citizens that are frustrated, we can't fix anything, we don't know about it. I told you that.
Correct.
So we got it. If we don't know about it, we can't fix it. So don't get frustrated and want to leave. You spent a lot of money in here. Appreciate you coming up and saying what we had to say.
Well, I appreciate your time this morning. I'll gather my items and head over.
Yeah, get your stuff. Don't leave here.
Oh,
There you go. Good to see you.
Next item, please. Is there anybody else? Anybody else? Okay. Good morning.
Good morning, I'm back again.
That's fine.
I imagine at the last council meeting, I think it was asked that Mr. Combs submit a schedule for those parks to be done. I think one has been submitted. I'm not sure, but I was told there was one submitted. I have not seen it. Have you seen a schedule for him, Mr. Cantrell?
In proper procedure, it'd be up to the council to ask staff
Okay.
questions during this process.
I was under understanding that we would get it, Mr. Cantrell. I had not seen it. Also, there was going to be a meeting or a discussion about rice or putting lines at the Fairgrounds Park, and I don't know if that's went anywhere yet or not. I haven't heard. But as far as that goes, you know, people are asking about money on it. If they were looking at saving taxpayer money, Fairgrounds Parks, putting stripes there, you can put 6 courts in for 25% of the cost of what's going on at Rice Park.
I would like to interject for one moment.
Okay.
I think the Rice Park thing is also an infill. I don't know if you've ever been to the tennis courts at Rice Park, but I think we're kind of doing two things at once. We're taking a dilapidated area of a very nice park and infilling it.
Yeah, trying to
with-
improve it, yes. I
Trying to
understand.
improve
Right,
it.
right.
So as far as that goes, I do understand your cost efficiency that you're talking about, but I do think it's also important that we're kind of infilling that dilapidated area while also providing services to
Mm-hmm.
your community. So I just wanted to interject
Well,
that.
which is great, which is fine, and we've
Yeah.
raised like $8,000 to help with the project
Yeah.
and so forth. But it is our understanding that we'd be done in the spring too.
I know.
And right now, I think the concrete, according to my contact, says maybe the first week of November. That's just the concrete. You have surfacing, you have lights, you have other things. But we're saying is that cost-wise, the fairground parks would be very simple to do. You can put a court in for $500 to $750. So it'd be very simple. I'm waiting for a call back from Anna Dietrich from Keisha, seeing if there's any change in the procedures, how to do it. But I was just wondering if we'd heard anything from the school system about why they were against it. But
I know that Justin was looking into that. He promised to look into that, but I
and I
don't.
thought he was supposed to come back in 2 weeks.
I thought he was too, but I don't see him in the audience.
Justin is at a conference out of town.
Oh,
and so
okay.
I'm pretty familiar with this, and if the council does have questions, I think I have capacity today to answer the
Okay.
questions. Thank you.
Jeff, do you know if he was able to reach the USD 308 and if they were willing to entertain lines on those courts?
His most recent communications I'm unaware of, but I know in the past they have had concerns over that. They do have competitions held there that has been the issue from what I understand. So if it was just a casual recreational group that went out, it probably wouldn't be a big deal to them. But from what I understand, the issue is that they do have to conform to some national standard. The question then becomes, well, can't you just remove the tape? I would have thought so, but apparently that's been at odds too. We've had issues with that. So I don't know that that is a viable solution for us, but I am happy to report that out at Rice Park, I believe they're pouring concrete right now as we sit here in this room. And it's a very sizable project, one that if we outsource privately would probably be in excess of $100,000, I would say very easily. And we're doing it in-house for a fraction of that. And it will take some time. And I really don't want to give any guaranteed dates because I don't have any to deliver. And I think if Justin was here and gave you dates, I don't know how we can guarantee that. It's weather permitting. There's no performance dates on it because we're doing it in-house. But it's going to be nice when it's done. I know that he's ordered lights, so we're going to have new concrete, new lights. It's going to be nice. Thank
Jeff,
you.
is there a need to revisit that arrangement between 308? There was a cost-sharing approach when that was built, and whether or not it's overdue that we review the jurisdiction of that whole thing to minimize these conflicts between 308 and the city of Hutchinson.
I don't want to cause a riot, but
Yeah.
in the last couple of months that this pickleball issue has been discussed, I've tried to assess really what is the public demand with pickleball as compared to other recreational aspects that those same facilities service. And I'm still not sure what that load looks like volume-wise. I know that this gentleman's been in the room multiple times, but as far as other people that have a compelling interest to cause the city to change its outlay for recreation, I've heard of maybe a handful of people that are proponents of pickleball versus the other side of the group. It's a shame we can't have a facility that services both needs, because really the assets are nearly identical, but their use patterns are different. So I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure if it's time to do that or not. If so directed, certainly we would.
Is there a contract or an interlocal
There is.
agreement?
There is,
There is.
yes.
And it may be time to revisit that whole intent of that interlocal agreement to,
I'm sure proponents of pickleball would concur with that. For sure,
yeah.
yeah.
Are you saying we need to bring 20, 30, 40 people to this meeting every time for this? Or, because any given night that we're out there playing, we outnumber everybody that's on the court, so we use it. Most of the time, we have 4 courts going.
I'd further encourage you to bring your shovels to the job site. That's where we need the help. Shovels to the job site.
We've actually offered our opinion to do that, and Justin's turned us down, so.
Yeah.
I'm
We
sure
asked for
there's a
one time.
liability issue.
We offered all sorts of voluntary help, but
Yeah.
it's always been turned down.
I'm being a little facetious, guys.
Yeah,
but,
liability would preclude
Yeah.
that, I'm
It is,
sure.
it is, but, yeah,
all I can tell you is that it's in progress. Even today, they're pouring concrete literally as we sit here and speak.
Yeah.
And so I've only got good things to report. Will that be fast enough for the group that's respondent in the room? Probably not. But I think we're probably being pretty constructive on it.
Yeah, we're just looking at the issue of the Rice Park, or the fairground parks, is that, like I said, Keisha, there is an acceptable method to put down, according to them, how you can strike courts along with tennis courts. So it's just something that we think that it's time, well, way past time, that should have been looked at last year, and it wasn't because of who knows what. But
Well, speaking to, I was a city employee at one time. When we do jobs, we get pulled up constantly.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's needs all over the city.
right.
Your construction crews, they're saving us a lot of money. We have our own electricians, we have our own plumbers. All the groups that we have in the city are really, really busy all the time.
I understand. Our part of our frustration is when we talk to Mr. Combs.
Yes, sir.
It's always, next week we'll be there.
Yes,
Next
sir.
week we'll be there. If they just give us a realistic deadline to
Right,
look at,
right.
we've been happy.
I got
But
you.
we just never, it's always been next week, next week, next week. And this has been going on for, well, since January.
Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying. I was one of a traffic light technician. I was a head technician.
We know, I've
And
seen you
I-
around town a lot.
Yes, sir. And then when I had a light to fix and it was on flash and I couldn't get to it, I would say I was planning to get it tomorrow, but something came up and I had to change. And I'm sure that's what's problem with him. He's probably wants his crews to go out and do this, but some come up's more important, whatever the case may be, and he has to go take care of that problem. So I appreciate you being patient, but we are doing the best we can.
Yeah, I'm just hoping to get done one of these days. so we
Understand
can
that.
play.
Understand
It
that, sir.
just, it seems like, say, every other day you talk to them and they tell you, we
Yeah.
even talk to the crews and the crews tell you the same thing.
Sure. But appreciate you coming up here and keep coming, and we'll do the best we can.
Okay.
All right.
All righty, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep. Anybody else? Okay, next item, please.
Item 5, consent agenda.
I
Move
move we
to
can approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Iris Carvalho,
Yes.
Dayline.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Bagwell.
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Item 6A, consider ARPA funds resolution of intent.
Paul Brown, City Attorney. You have a resolution before you. There is one correction in the first paragraph where it says Reno County. That should be City of Hutchinson. That's been corrected for the mayor's signature. This was presented at the last city council session by members of the task force, asking for this to be approved. The resolution only does two things. One, you agree to receive recommendations from their listening meetings. It also says that it is in the governing body's sole discretion as to what's done with the American Rescue Plan Act funds. And that's not something you could delegate to anyone else anyway. It has to be your decision. The dollars that are mentioned at the beginning, we have half of those. They've already been received. The second half comes next year. And they don't have to be spent right away. They don't have to be dedicated right away. But this resolution just says you'll receive their recommendations before taking any action. Because it's kind of pointless to hold all the meetings if they won't be heard. But it doesn't commit this governing body to anything. Questions from the council?
I just think that, just want to say thank you for everybody who's come forward to try to reach out to all the community members and stakeholders in the community. I know that the task force did their hardest and really tried to reach out to groups and community members that often don't get their voice heard. Usually it's like the same people that are always at these meetings. And I think the approach to this was basically, we're gonna try to reach out to people that normally aren't at these meetings, who normally don't have their voices heard. And I think that's really important, and so I just wanted to commend the task force for taking on this huge project and trying to get the people of our community involved with something that's gonna benefit the community. So I just wanna say thank you.
Other than that, I was at a meeting yesterday with the Bricktown, and I asked some of my members there, whose job is it to go out and make sure the communities, they have the meetings? Whose job is that? To make sure they see everybody. Do you know?
What? It's a webpage on Reno Rally, and they can, and it just, community members can get a group of 10 or 15
Okay.
people, and then they just put it on there, and it can be an open meeting or closed meeting.
Okay.
And so, and then their staff will try to find a facilitator to come and help move that along.
Okay.
And I believe is it 90-minute meetings? In 90-minute meetings, just to kind of help facilitate. I know that they're doing that, but it's basically the community. If you have 10 or 15 friends, get on
Okay.
Rally Reno, get a time set, and they'll send somebody over there, preferably during the work week. But I'm sure some accommodation can be made to that. But it's just an effort just to get groups of people together to talk about what they think, and then they'll bring that data back to us.
Okay.
So it could.
Well, we need to get the Southwest Bricktown. I need to get them together so they can have a say. We need to get them together and get on your website and let you know what they think.
Yes.
Okay.
Steve?
I have a question, and particularly perhaps to Jeff and to Paul. As far as when the city council might to deliberate these recommendations that this task force is identifying, and I know it's a multi-year process as far as the ultimate distribution. We've got a little over 3 million and another 3 to come. But what would the steps be as far as when the city council might expect those deliberations to be presented to the council or to you as a city manager?
I think for me, what's most important is to wait till we've collected all the thoughts and the input that has been consensual and part of our ongoing discussions with the outside agencies. And I think there will come a point in time when they deliver recommendations to this body. And I suspect what typically happens in those scenarios is you have other ancillary groups that all of a sudden approach after that happens. That feel like maybe they weren't included in that process, even though they went to great effort to do so, the outside agencies. I think it'll be important for us to hear all of those individuals. And then, of course, staff will have recommendations in addition to what you'll receive from outside agencies that relate to infrastructure.
So is that in the next 6 months or beyond that?
I'm going to have to rely on the outside agencies a little bit to tell us what their anticipated delivery date is, and I think that they have one. Sarah may even know.
Actually, I had a side question. Will Rebecca also be doing an online survey for the city to get recommendations from the community?
I think I would.
Like, will the city do any kind of, because I know we've done some online surveys before.
What we've suggested is the process that's already been discussed and kind of adopted by the governing body, that we continue to adhere to that and that people participate in that.
Okay.
So we have done some of that, but as far as us doing direct survey, I would encourage you all to leave that in the better hands of the outside agency that's conducting that right now.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here. I got an email the other day from Adam Stewart, who is the neighborhood coordinator. And there is a meeting scheduled for Thursday, the 23rd at 6 o'clock at the public library. And he sent it to the feature neighborhoods. In other words, that would include Southwest Bricktown, College Grove, Grace Arbor, Midtown, all of those organized neighborhoods. And in order to get people in those neighborhoods to come to his meeting. So you can certainly tell people from Southwest Bricktown
All right.
that there's a meeting Thursday night if they want to go.
I will do that.
And I think, I don't know, Aubrey Jackson, you could probably tell us more clearly what the timeline is. I had assumed sometime yet this fall we'd get something back from K-State.
Hello. Yes, I believe the timeline is still what we've stated, that we are trying to finish these meetings. We'd said September 30th. It looks like we're going to get more meetings in the first 2 weeks of October, and then our consultants at K-State will take the data and return it to us in the form of a report and what they see in trends and patterns and suggestions from our community, I would say in November.
Okay.
And I wanted to speak to Steve's question, too,
Okay.
about Southwest Bricktown. Our task force has been responsible for reaching out to people in the community to say, would you convene a meeting?
Okay.
I myself have made a lot of those calls and had a lot of those conversations. We have more and more people doing that.
Okay.
I've, in particular, Oscar Garcia has been on the task force.
Okay.
And he and I talked about it in this chambers 2 weeks ago. I also talked with Cindy Flores and previous city council member.
Sure.
Francis Garcia.
Garcia.
Thank you. All I could think was Francis Garza, and I knew that wasn't right.
No.
Garcia.
Francis Garcia. So I think that there are things in motion.
Good.
But I was going to check back in with them this week.
Good.
To see what we can come up
I
with.
just wanted
Because
to
we
make-
want very specific
Right.
opportunities for people to engage. I do know another option would be for anybody in our city to go to rallyreno.org, look up the meetings and find one that says it's public, that it's open to anybody, and say, I want to be there, and just show up. And we'd be happy to have people join that way too. But if you want to convene a group of your own, by all means, just submit a meeting and we will send a trained facilitator there to host the 45, 90-minute meeting. I don't know where that came from.
That's good to hear. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Okay, so you need a vote on this, correct?
Need a motion.
Motion. Any other questions? Can I get a motion, please?
Motion to approve a resolution of intent with respect to the distribution of the American Rescue Plan Act physical recovery funds and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Iris DeCarvalho?
Yes.
Dayline?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Bagwell?
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Item 7, report of city officials.
Okay, Sarah.
Me first. I was wondering, the city manager, if you had any, with the POW flag to be flown at the on the Severance on the days that you can fly it. Has there been any progress about that?
I don't know the current status of that, and I probably need to dig deeper to find out which agency has historically done that. It may be that we've assisted with that with bucket trucks. I need to look into that, Sarah.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder.
Okay, yeah.
Anything else?
No, that's,
Jade.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I wanted to thank city staff for moving on the USD 313 parking lot. I understand a meeting was had with the superintendent and progress was made in that parking area that we've received several complaints about. I do know that the super is waiting on a permit form from planning, so I'll follow up with planning department after this meeting on that. Wanted to say that I'm looking forward to the fiesta this weekend, but I'll let you talk about that.
Okay.
And one thing I wanted to bring up, it seems like these meetings have become a bit of a forum for city staff bashing, and I encourage constituents to always come to us with your concerns. Really appreciate a better understanding of how policies we make are impacting your day-to-day lives. And but I do want to remind you that we are the body that is, I guess, deserving of the complaints, and city staff is carrying out our direction. So I think we have a really strong team of department heads. I work with a lot of cities all the way throughout Kansas, and well, at least South Central and Southwest Kansas through my job. And we really do have a strong team of department heads. If you've never lived anywhere else, you maybe don't have anything to compare it to. But I just want to say I appreciate them. I appreciate all the work you're doing. And when we question some of the decisions you make up here, don't think that you don't have our support. We're just trying to balance the needs of staff and the needs of the community. So that's it.
Thank you, Jade. Dave.
Again, I'd like to revisit the atrium just a moment, if I can, for an update as to where we might be with Mr. Joseph and the ultimate sale or the purchase of the atrium.
Mr. Joseph remains on the ready contractually. He is, we're in communications almost on a weekly basis. Nothing has changed there. We're waiting to be funded on the temp notes.
On the temp notes in October?
That's
Right.
really the piece that
Okay.
we're waiting to kick in on. Yeah. Yep.
All right, very good, thank you.
Yeah, no changes since last time. Everything is in forward motion, so
Okay.
no hiccups.
Nancy?
Nothing today.
Okay, mine, as everybody knows, I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. I love Mexican dancing, and the fiesta's coming up. And here's the thing to it, the paper to it. So I encourage all Hutchinson to come down there and have a good time. And they're offering a lot of stuff, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So hope to see everybody out there. And it starts at 6, and it's going to be a bronco horse on a machine. So a lot of inflatable toys, inflatable for the kids, a lot of Mexican food, other food be there. So a lot of things going on, and I'm really, as you can see, I'm excited. On a bit of sour note, a little bit, all this pandemia is coming down. We should say our prayers for all our citizens. I have one that's for me personally. My cousin Debbie McHugh is in the KC Hospital in Kansas City on a ventilator. I wish everybody would pray for everybody that's like that. She's my cousin, and I think about her every day, and I pray for her every day. And just pray for it, because our city and our nation is going through a hard time right now. And if we don't need each other, we need each other right now. So, that being said, that's all I have. Thank you. Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor.
Appreciate it.
Say name.
Can't hold that title, Mayor. But thank you. Appreciate
Yes, go
that.
ahead, Jim.
As you all know, the state fair is concluded. It was the first time for me to participate and see operationally what all is involved in that, and having a little bit of experience in other venues with that type of activity. I wasn't completely foreign to it, but I was very happy to see the level of cooperation and participation on the city's part, and the direct communication that occurs between both agencies to make it a successful event for the community. So appreciate everyone's efforts there, certainly internally, staff, department heads. Great deal of work has been done there, and I'm very confident in the new leadership at the fair too. Got a great relationship there. So that's all I have. I'll rest for questions. Thank you.
Any questions? Ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Iris De Carvalho?
Yes.
Dave
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Bagwell?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
That was a short meeting.
Yeah.